Perhaps the most unlikely pair of the entire series is Krillin and Android 18. Krillin has been around since the early days of Dragon Ball, quickly becoming Goku's best friend after the two trained under Master Roshi. Android 18, on the other hand, couldn't be any more different. 18 is a human that was turned into a cybernetic android by Dr. Gero with the intent of killing Goku. Sounds like a match made in heaven, huh? Through a strange course of mostly unseen events, the two grew close and eventually married, having a daughter named Marron. But this happily ever after has more going on under the surface, as there are some pretty interesting facts behind this power couple. The origins of their mutual attraction is pretty strange, and the ins and outs of their relationship are not explicitly stated. In order to find out more about Krillin and Android 18's relationship, you really have to put it under a microscope. We decided to do exactly that, gathering up some of the most interesting bits of history and trivia about these two lovebirds. With that, here are 15 things you didn't know about Krillin and Android 18's relationship. The kiss that started it all. Throughout Dragon Ball, we've seen a lot of villains turn from a villain into an ally, though none of them were quite like Android 18. 18 and her brother, Android 17, seemed hell-bent on destroying everything in their path, but when 18 came across Krillin, she and the other androids spared him. 18 then gave Krillin a kiss on the cheek for luck before walking away. Though Krillin was scared out of his mind during this moment, the kiss still sparked something within him. From then on, Krillin developed a crush on Android 18, despite the fact that she was a murderer. Android 18 sparing Krillin's life and kissing him is what started their entire relationship, which is kind of a cute story to tell the grandkids. Krillins Crush. From the moment that Krillin received that terrifying kiss, he was smitten. Though he didn't know about Krillin's growing feelings right away, he definitely had a crush on the blonde android. The moment when Krillin realizes he had feelings for Android 18 was when he decided against setting off the bomb within her. After learning that Dr. Gero had built a contingency plan into Androids 16, 17, and 18, Bulma planned to exploit it in order to help the Z-Fighters by building a remote that could detonate the bombs within the androids. When Krillin was given the chance to use the device against Android 18, he hesitated, perhaps because he saw the good in her, or perhaps just because he liked her. Whatever it was, he destroyed the remote instead. Krillin wishes for Android 18 to be human. Destroying the remote wasn't the first gesture that Krillin made due to his feelings for Android 18. He also tried to give her a normal life. When the Z-Fighters summoned Shenron so that they could revive the people of Earth after Cell was defeated, they had an extra wish left. Krillin wanted to use it to help Android 17 and 18 go back to how their lives were before they were turned into androids. Krillin asked Shenron to turn 17 and 18 back into humans, a gesture that caught the attention of 18 herself. However, Shenron was not able to do this, as it wasn't in his power. We're not exactly sure the reason for this, but it meant the two cyborgs couldn't return to normal. Krillin thought Android 18 was dating her brother. When Krillin wished for Android 18 and her brother to be human, it was because he liked her. However, he didn't think he'd get to be with her since he thought that Android 17 was her boyfriend, when in reality, they were twins. We're sure that Android 18 didn't like this implication, which is probably why she was quick to correct Krillin. This correction also might have been a sign that Android 18 also liked Krillin, since she was quick to point out that she wasn't with anyone. Who's to say, since we don't know what happened in the 7 years between the Cell and Buu sagas, but maybe 18 and Krillin went out on a date the next week. You'd think that Krillin would have noticed the resemblance between Android 18 and her brother before making that assumption, though. Krillin's bomb bribe. When Shenron revealed that he could not turn androids 17 and 18 back into humans, Krillin was disappointed, but he didn't give up on trying to show Android 18 that he cared. Instead of wishing for them to become humans, Krillin wished to have the bombs within them removed. Krillin admitted that this gesture, as well as the attempted wish to make them human again, were done out of the affection he had developed on Android 18. Shenron was able to grant this wish and the bombs were removed from the two androids, meaning that no one could ever exploit that weakness again. This gesture was Krillin's attempt to get in the good graces of Android 18, who made it pretty clear that, though thankful, she wouldn't be hanging out with him anytime soon. Android 18. Conceal, don't feel. Despite what Android 18 might have said to Krillin, she was clearly flattered and touched by the gestures of his Dragon Ball wishes. Both the attempt to have her humanity restored and the act of having her bomb removed were done by Krillin to show his feelings to Android 18. Upon overhearing all of this, Android 18 thanked Krillin, then flew off after saying she wasn't interested in him. This was most likely a lie to cover up her embarrassment at feelings she was beginning to develop. Many Dragon Ball fans say that this was the turning point for Android 18, that once she learned about Krillin's feelings, she was somewhat smitten at what he was willing to do for her. Ah, isn't that cute? Finally, someone thinks Krillin is cool. Speaking of being smitten, once Android 18 fell for Krillin, she really fell for him, finding herself admiring his actions and determined personality. In fact, this goes quite a bit beyond being smitten and even beyond deep admiration. She finds Krillin to be incredibly cool. The proof of this came from both Resurrection F and the Golden Frieza arc of Dragon Ball Super. When Frieza is on his way to Earth, Krillin offers to go fight the Galactic Tyrant. 18 offers to go in his place, since she is stronger than him, but Krillin says he wants her to use her strength to protect their daughter. Krillin then flies off while discussing what they're gonna have for dinner, casually implying he'll be back soon without a scratch. After he flies away, Android 18 states with wide eyes, "He's so cool." Cyborg offspring. When Android 17 and 18 first showed up, everyone assumed that they were artificially created humans, since that is essentially the definition of an android. Yet, come the time of the Buu saga, we see that Android 18 and Krillin have had a daughter. How is it that a robot could have a daughter with a human? Well, we learned sometime in the Cell saga that 18 started out as a human and was modified to be a cyborg android. This also means that Marron might be the first human-cyborg hybrid offspring in existence, though not the only one. Android 17 was revealed to also have had a child in Dragon Ball Super. We can't imagine that Marron will have any special powers because of this. Android 18's reproductive organs weren't modified after all, but it's still an interesting fact. Their 7-year-old daughter acts like a baby. Speaking of Marron, it is very clear that she is not a warrior, like her parents or other kids of the original Z fighters. In fact, she seems to be a normal kid despite being the daughter of a cyborg and a superhuman martial artist. Thus, Krillin and 18 are rather protective of her. Krillin and 18 keep Marron out of harm's way whenever villains shows up, but it doesn't stop there. By the time of the first Dragon Ball Super saga, Marron is already 7 years old. Yet, they still put her in a car seat and feed her like she's a toddler. Perhaps this is because all the kids of Dragon Ball tend to not act their age, be it acting older or younger, but it might also mean that Krillin and 18 baby her too much. They were deadbeats. In the 7 years between the Cell saga and the Buu saga, Android 18 and Krillin got married and had a kid. Until Dragon Ball Super, they apparently lived with Master Roshi in the Kame house. Whatever the reason for this strange dynamic, we'll never know. Even stranger is that neither of them had a job. It wasn't until Dragon Ball Super that Krillin, 18 and Marron moved to Satan City and got a place of their own. Not only that, but Krillin also got a job as a police officer for the city. 18's job seems to be taking care of Marron, as we haven't seen if she has a job at this point in the series. Not a particularly interesting fact, but most fans might not have known what the household dynamic of 18 and Krillin is like. Android 18 is money hungry. Speaking of employment, Android 18 seems to enjoy the finer things in life, something we first saw when she went shopping during the Android saga. This personality trait seemed to stick around in the Buu saga, when Android 18 was seen scolding Krillin for not bringing in enough money for their family. This was also the reason that she decided to enter the World Martial Arts Tournament, forcing her husband to join along with her so they could win the prize money. Android 18 is also easily swayed into doing things by a cash reward, something that is displayed in Dragon Ball Super. This was seen when 18 was convinced by Goku to join the Tournament of Power by the prospect of a cash prize, which intrigued her further when Goku kept increasing the price that she would win. They're perfect fighters together. This one might not come as a surprise, since 18 and Krillin are husband and wife after all, but the ways in which we see their support for each other shows just how deep their bond is. Whenever they are in a fight, or compete in any way, they always have each other's back, fighting tag team and combining attacks to take out powerful enemies. We saw this in the Buu saga and we see it in the Tournament of Power. They also seem to have a strong sense of nonverbal communication whenever working together, as 18 was able to tip off Krillin during a poker game with nothing more than a few gestures. This might seem like a boring fact, but think about how deadly this husband-wife fighting team would be in a fight when they are perfectly in sync with their attacks and strategies. 18 feet's trouble with affection. Android 18 is a bit of a stoic person. She isn't a cold, emotionless robot or anything, she just tends to play things close to the vest. The only times that 18 shows affection is with her daughter and with her husband, which usually only results in small smiles and blushes in some rare cases. 18 not only has trouble with showing affection, she also has some trouble with communication. The best example of this came when she wanted to use a wish from Shenron to figure out what her husband wanted as a gift, meaning she had trouble finding out the information herself. In the end, Bulma convinced her that her and Marron's love was all that Krillin needed, which was something she would have figured out if she knew how to express herself a bit more. Head shaving. Krillin was raised as a monk at the Orin Temple, a martial arts school where the students appeared to be similar to Shaolin monks. As such, all the students shaved their heads, something that was most likely very ritualistic and which Krillin supposedly did himself for years. When he was preparing to fight Frieza after his resurrection, he decided to shave his head once more like the good old days. However, this time, he asked his wife to do it, something that we think represented a lot of trust between the two. It showed that the two have a deep bond, that Krillin not only trusted 18 to shave his head, but also that he wanted her to perform a ritual that he held close to heart for most of his young life. It was a very subtle, but deep moment that the two shared. A love unlike any other. In the Tournament of Power, there is a group of maiden warriors from Universe 2 known as the Kamikaze Fireballs. These warriors transform into magical girl-type forms that attack with the power of love. They also tend to go on long-winded speeches about experiencing and sharing the power of love and beauty across all universes, especially their leader, Ribrianne. Ribrianne also seems to have very stubborn views on what love and beauty are, which is why she was quick to scold Android 18 for being married to Krillin, who she deemed to be ugly because of his bald head and lack of a nose. However, Android 18 quickly proved her love for Krillin, and vice versa, by showing her fighting motivation and power. Their fight shows Ribrianne that their love is unlike anything she'd ever seen. That's it. Do you have any more trivia to share about Krillin and Android 18 from Dragon Ball? Let us know in the comments.